CROWNCAST episode 6.
Yo.
Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba.
Breaking news, special guest.
Special guest in Crown HQ slash CROWNCAST studios slash our office.
If you guys could only see our setup right now.
It's amazing.
It's pretty impressive.
Especially for an AVL integration company. So we have here an American hero. We have Luke Wheat of Crown Design Group.
Quite the introduction.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You've seen the setup and how we make this thing happen. Are you impressed?
I'm a little concerned, but it's happening. So,
And it's going to make it through the podcast and everything's going to keep
In Jesus'
running
name.
along?
In Jesus' name. Luke, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell the internet a little bit about yourself.
All right. I've been at Crown for 4.5 years now.
And they're the best 4.5 years of your life.
Greatest 4.5, yeah.
I knew it.
The glory years. So, but I've been here for 4.5 years. Starting with, well, I won't jump ahead, but my first job was what we're talking about today.
Right.
But right now at Crown, mainly I'm focusing on the commissioning aspect. So the kind of the third or the final phase of a project, kind of programming everything and doing the training with the church, and just kind of getting everything we're doing launching. And then on the side, doing some crown care, kind of getting that whole project up and running. So
Right.
staying busy.
Yeah, you're our commissioning manager and our crown care manager. Oversee it.
Yep.
And you've come a long way. And we're going to go look at a project that was your first project, essentially your first couple days of work.
Yeah.
With Crown Design.
Yeah, I think I graduated 10 days before I started here, and my first day was meeting you all at the airport to fly across the country.
Yeah,
so
that's right. We didn't even meet at the office or anything.
No, never met you guys.
And before that, we just had the interview, and we did it over Zoom.
Yep.
And you were smart enough to wear a suit still. You wore a jacket, a blazer.
That's right.
I would have worn it today if I knew, I was going to be honest, but...
Yeah, you missed that opportunity. But you did it on the Zoom. You probably weren't wearing pants, but at least you had the jacket on. I couldn't tell.
I was actually wearing shoes because I was just prepared for one of you to say, like, "All right, would you stand up real quick?" or something. I was like, I put my shoes on. I did not need that.
I remember the suit. I can't believe it's been over 4 years.
I mean, I got the job, so
That's crazy.
The suit did it.
It worked.
Yeah.
The suit worked. We said, hey, this guy's just over a computer talking to us, and he's already dressing up, so I like it.
Yeah, no. What can I say? I paid attention to all those professional development classes I had to take. So
Right. And you had gone to school where, and what'd you take? What'd you do?
Yeah, I went to Purdue University up in Indiana, and I was in a program called Audio Engineering Technology, which is kind of branched off of electrical engineering. It was kind of like you do all the electrical classes, and then all your electives are kind of chosen for you and are kind of in the audio side of things. I did a minor in theater design and production, so that was more of the performing arts side. So you kind of got to see the creative side and then the engineering side. So, and then I worked for the in-house production company on campus, so got to run audio and do a couple of cool events and help out around there. So that was kind of the background I was coming from walking into here.
Right. And how prepared did you feel you were?
Oh, well, I think I felt a lot more prepared walking into the job until, once we got boots on the ground, it was like, oh, wow, I don't know a lot. And so I got to learn a lot of things that first week. And
this was the project we're going to go over today. It was pretty intense. So you were there for that install. It was actually phase 2 install, I believe. Right? Or were you
phase 1 was my first week. And
phase 1 and phase 2.
And phase 2 is the end of my first year. So we went back at the end of the year.
Bookended it. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, both were pretty intense installs with some drama that happened, technical issues.
Yep.
It didn't happen as nicely as we'd like. It ended up being great, but it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get there. And it's funny that was your first project.
A memory.
It's baptism by fire.
Yep.
So we're going to go over a project today that we did in California, Ventura, California, City Church, California. That's what they're called, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we get this job? How do we get connected with this church?
So we've talked about it before, how we build relationships with people, through this company, especially churches and stuff we work with. And this came from that. It's crazy enough. The worship pastor there was on staff, or used to be on staff at a church here in Bradenton. So where we're located. And so we had known him before from a church here, and then he ended up taking a job out in California at this church to just kind of move positions and go out there, kind of change in life and job and everything. And then he had been out there a couple of years, I think, and they wanted to do some upgrades. And so the connection he had was with us, even though we were in Florida.
Right. Steve Boulez.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, Steve.
Yo. I do believe this was our first. It wasn't our first out-of-state job.
No,
it wasn't. But this was a pretty good-sized job to do out-of-state, to go across the country and try to make happen. And all the logistics, which we've talked about before, shipping stuff and moving employees and everything out there to make it happen.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how that kind of happened. It was just a connection we had with him when he was here, so it paid off.
And phase 2 happened in the midst of COVID.
At the very beginning, because we made a joke, because you guys got sick out there. I wasn't there. You guys got
phase
sick.
Phase 1 was when it was the very beginning of COVID.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Phase 1 was the beginning of COVID.
We were talking about opening boxes from China, and
we were making jokes.
COVID
that's here. Right. Okay, so, but you guys had went out there and you guys got sick when you were out there.
On the way back, yeah.
And so you were coming back sick. Now, this was when it was called the coronavirus at that point. So everyone's like, corona, whatever. There was a couple cases. This was a time when there was like a handful of cases in the country. Like, it was breaking news that there was 3 new cases in California or something like that. So that was going on. And then you guys come home to Florida. Everybody's sick. And, a few days pass. Well, then breaking news. There's 2 cases of coronavirus in Florida now. And it was in Sarasota. I remember this happening. And it was on national news because it was like a new state of coronavirus.
Wonder how it got here.
And I'm thinking, our dudes, everyone was just in California.
You think it was us?
I have no idea. But y'all got sick. If you think about the sickness that y'all had, it was kind of that whatever cold flu crap. And then you fly home.
Well, you gotta think. I mean, at that time, if there were I don't want to get kicked off YouTube here.
We already said the words. We already said coronavirus. I know,
we're already tagged. Fauci. All right, whatever. At that time, there were a couple cases, and I think they were up in like the Northwest.
It was like Washington State. Yeah.
And so, at that point, if you have identified the virus, it's not like those are the first 2 people that had it in the whole country. Are you kidding me? Those are the first 2 people that got sick enough to go to the hospital and get a new test that
they could barely test for it. It took days to get like the results or whatever. Right. So
it was not like
it's just the first couple known cases that actually tested and all that.
So it was all over the place. I'm sure it was. But you can blame us, I guess, from the
It hadn't gotten crazy yet, though, because you guys obviously were able to fly out there and work. Had it been like a couple months later, who knows?
Yeah, this was January 2020, and I think the height of things was like March.
Right.
Was when things were getting
real
crazy.
It had not even really happened yet.
Right.
But yeah.
It's interesting because...
I thought that was funny.
Okay, so now I'm remembering it. Phase 1, beginning of COVID. Phase 2... is a year of COVID.
It was November. Yes. Yeah, November 2020.
And going back to California
into that.
After a year of shutdowns, draconian laws, and tyrannical governance.
Right. You all went into the pit.
And it was pretty amazing to see the state with the boot on his neck. Yeah. Not to get too graphic here, but I've got some pretty harsh feelings about.
Well, yeah, because the second time we went out there, we were all masked up and everything for the plane, which is a long plane ride for masks, and then we had all the seating we did or at dinner and everything was always like outside in the streets, like they had the closed off streets that we were sitting in, or
I know.
Or like if it was too cold, they had the plastic walls.
It was so silly. Outside. It was so silly, but whatever. But yeah, interesting. That's cool. This is definitely a bookended COVID project, which hopefully doesn't get us kicked off YouTube, but whatever. Yeah.
And y'all are coming from Florida, so land of the free during COVID here in Florida, flying into California, like the most locked down thing ever.
Yeah, Newsom's utopia.
Yeah. I just remember talking to people over there during that, and them asking if, do you guys go to restaurants and stuff? Like, it was so, we were like, yeah, we've been at restaurants for months, you know?
Right, yeah.
We never really even shut down here. But
actually, now that I think about it, I think phase 2 started at the point in which they were going to bring some services back inside. And I'm not fully remembering this maybe, but they weren't allowed to have services inside their building for months and months and months.
That's right.
The church, yeah.
The first Sunday, they had it outside. When we were there for phase 2, they had it in their courtyard.
Right.
So we were all out there, even though we just did all the install inside. Yeah, that's right.
So they weren't allowed to go inside. It was all that stuff. So this was a project, this second phase, which is the majority of the work we did. And that's probably the most stuff we'll go over today. But we did all that so that essentially they could come into a newer room and kind of have things ready. And boom, it was a great kind of launch back inside the building, which is cool.
Yeah. Crazy times.
It feels like COVID was like a million years ago, but it was just like, I don't even know, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
When did it end?
I mean, I guess for Florida, like we just had a different life here in Florida with it.
Yeah, we had
2
weeks to stop the spread.
A couple weeks we shut down or whatever, but not really. I'm sure the people in California remember it like crazy because they truly were shut down for many, many months, if not longer. But yeah, crazy time.
All right, so we're going to go into this project. We're going to walk you through it, show you some design, show you before, middle, and after pictures, videos, kind of give you a sense. It turned out awesome. It was really cool. They're a great church, man.
Yeah. Steve's
a great guy. His whole crew is awesome. Pastor is really great there. They got a really big heart for that area. They're taking care of it. I like them a lot. I love that church. Their worship team was awesome. Like Steve can sing and play. Their whole crew was killing it. So this project turned out awesome. Even though COVID tried to destroy us, we did not let it. But let's go to one of our sponsors, probably Crown Care.
I think, yeah.
Luke, what's
I've heard of that.
On the street? What's on the street? What are people saying about Crown Care?
Man, it's taken off. You know, I think we hit our 6-month anniversary, so it's up and strong. Things are figured out, and we're just saving the day all over the country. So it's been great.
So you're the first line of defense, I'll call it.
yeah. So obviously, getting up and running, you got to do your shoestring budget and everything. So it's been many on-call hours. Not too many crazy hours. At the very beginning, you know, we had this whole monitoring setup where we know when devices go offline at our Crown Care locations, and that kind of backfired a couple times. Once all the access points were updating at 3 a.m. and I got an alert on my phone for every access point that went down while it rebooted.
Right.
And so the wife wasn't super happy about that one, but otherwise, I mean, it worked. That was the goal. So,
would you say we've had a couple clients that were on the fence about having it, got it, and then they went through a scenario? Like,
yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. It seems like I feel like every month that we have a member, they have some experience where it's like, all right, well, now they're more sold and more bought in than maybe they were when they first tried it out.
Right, you're able to jump in and help out. And yeah, pretty awesome. Well, you heard it here first, folks. So Crown Care, let's check it out. AVL systems are great when they work and a nightmare when they don't. Well, we've come up with a solution for when they don't. Crown Care is our subscription-based service program where you get 24/7 support, 24/7 critical system monitoring, and a host of other goodies. If you're interested in Crown Care, please give us a call or contact us through our website. All right, and we're back. Thank you, Crown Care. You're amazing. And thank you, Luke, for managing it so well. So there it is. Here we go. So we're going to jump into this. This is the City Church, Ventura, California. And we're going to just jump into it here. So we've got, I got some pics of the what it looked like.
Yep.
the issues they had. I want to go over a little bit of that, show you guys what it looked like, and really the reason we went out there. So let's take a look here. All right, so here is a picture of what the room looked like. This is it.
It's another wood frame.
Yep.
Type building.
Yep.
We do a lot of renovations in these types of buildings. Starting to learn our way around these things.
Yeah, this is like a Hershey Kiss wood kind of ceiling thing, and they had all these different jut outs. Like, they obviously did not build this building. They got it somehow, or it was gifted to them, or whatever. But there is very unique room, strange shape, kind of like a star shape, like kind of pushed out to left and right. So you can kind of see there the sides. Very difficult to kind of figure out how to do designs and everything. This is back of the house. So this was their stage display, and that was their camera. So that was their stream.
Yep.
If we look here, that was their front of house area, which is kind of tucked in behind the back wall, which, if you know anything about mixing and doing audio, you do not want to be in another room while you mix. You want to try and be in the same room as the people you're mixing for. Just
there
FYI.
was a time in history that when they built all these buildings, this is what they all look like. This, they always put them in a little closet area.
Yeah,
there was just, I don't know.
Yeah, you see that with theaters too, where they just have a little peephole and this little slider window. And that's like the original sound booth of most theaters. Before
they probably didn't do much production or something at this time of church history or something, and it wasn't that important to have them in the room, because they are all like this. I think almost every time.
I think it's probably aesthetic. So it
was more obviously because the way the building looks too, right?
They're putting all this money into like wood framing and all this jazz. And then what, you're going to just drop front of house right in the middle of the room? And I don't know. We see it a lot, and we're changing the world one front of house at a time. So, they had some audio issues. These are some, I don't even know what was going on here, but they had some side fills, and, it was not the greatest. This was an investment that they made prior to us being a part of their church and helping out. But this was their
That's right,
PA.
It was on the floor.
It was on their floor.
I forgot.
So they had made an investment in 3 leopards, Meyer leopards, and I think one 900, Meyer 900 LFC or whatever. Yep. Their 18-inch sub. So they had invested in that as a PA, but they just had it on the stage floor. And it didn't work out real well. Right. Didn't have enough height, and obviously, but this is a first step into trying to get some quality gear. Now, this system that they got sold, it was this PA and then with like an X32, which is like pretty rough to me. There's different ways of doing it, but that's what they did. They invested in the speakers, and we were able to use them again and kind of update it and move things around. So. This was their rack. This is their equipment rack. This was backstage. This is typical.
We say it's pretty typical picture.
Pretty typical. This is the do-it-yourselfer. This is the throw it together, buy an analog snake off Amazon type deal.
Yep.
And that's what this is. You can see here we have one of the digital snakes in there, and the Meyer processor. And this is their world for a bit. This is their backstage. You can see here a better picture of these of the leopards with the 900, and then they built a little box for it to sit on.
Yep.
Which I guess it got off the ground a little bit, but we ended up helping out a lot more with that. So the primary reason we got called in was. There was a couple different reasons. One was they needed an update on their stage. So they had projection. They had these pixel strips, as you can see. They had an old stage that needed some updates. And then like front of house, they had that X32. The speakers were on the ground. Like there's a lot going on. I think even house lights, front lighting, we helped out with. Mm-hmm. And they had no real broadcast video set up. So we were tasked with building out a proper production suite, and rack room, and green room, so that they could do better live production and have a better program to send online.
And we did that phase 1.
Yeah, phase 1 was kind of in the room, and then phase 2 was the production suite and everything kind of outside the room.
Right. So, I mean, this was this is typical too.
Yeah.
This was at front of house. This is like a little side closet that some good-hearted volunteer probably cut out and put it in there, and those are all like HDMI splitters and video distro, and we cleaned all that up and gave them new distro for the lobby and everything. But that's kind of what they were dealing with. It's hard. Like, we talk to our clients now, and there's a certain level of infrastructure you just need to invest in.
And that's not the funnest. It's not fun money to spend. Nobody sees it. Like, people in the church don't see it. A lot of the employees don't even see it. Just a couple people see it, but it's so important to have, because that is the typical look, right there. That's the make it happen. That's the make it happen look, which is pretty prominent in the church world, I would say. Right. Most churches are probably in that position, and so I guess we see it a lot because we do go in and do a lot of upgrades, and so we get to come in like this at a time when a church is ready to make that step up, and they're just like, please help us out with this, help us into the new world.
Yeah, if a lot of these do-it-yourselfers, these churches, they do their best and they get things going. But like these HDMIs, I mean, how many of these HDMI splitters have we taken out, Luke?
I mean, they're the worst part. They're always the weakest link in any system. And I mean, HDMI is just a whole issue in itself. But yeah, those splitters, it's usually like the cheapest one you find on Amazon, and it's going to 16 different places.
Yeah.
So
that's probably you can get them so cheap and easy.
Yeah.
So anybody can just go on Amazon and look for an HDMI splitter and get it for $20 or something.
Right.
So that's the fix a lot of times, which is, you can only split it so many times. I mean,
yeah, the issue with HDMI is that it's prosumer. Like they built it to try and make things easy, but in a scenario like this, you're dealing with what are you dealing with? You're dealing with EDID information, HDCP, scaling. The TVs are liking it or not liking it. Right. Resolutions are flying around. Like, it's supposed to make your life easier, but it does not make your life easier when it goes wrong.
Yeah, cable length issues. I mean,
yeah, HDMIs you can only go 50 feet,
50 feet or something like that.
And
we've seen longer cables all the time.
You get into the fiber and directional HDMIs that are hit or miss too.
But
so much time.
Since it's so easy to get, and it is prosumer or consumer, really.
Yeah.
It ends up in a lot of churches for sure because of the price and the ease of just making it happen.
Yep.
But yeah, that's what we typically see and end up ripping out, which feels good.
Yep. Yeah, so they had a lot of issues. They had a lot of old gear, thrown together gear, do-it-yourself gear, and parts of it were falling apart, parts of it weren't working, and it was time for some Crown Design magic. That's what I call it.
So these pictures come from like a first site visit you did, right?
I think so. Yeah. Yep. I flew out there, met with Steve. So I had known Steve too from.
We just knew him from Bayside too. I mean, just from we were in like worship groups and stuff like that at the table. Yeah.
Well, he was at
Church on the Rock.
Church on the Rock.
Yeah.
At Palmetto.
Yeah.
And so we had talked to him. We hadn't done any projects there though.
No.
But he got connected with us again when he went over there because they really needed some help. And so he brought me out, or us out. I went and we chatted through all this, took measurements, like tried to figure out what they were going to do, and started to work through some design. So let me show you the design that we're working on. Boom. Okay. So here are some concepts that we had. And the idea was to give them some. So all these bulkheads and stuff that are in the room, like they had a little bit of lighting in it, but they're kind of in the way. Like they weren't helping anything.
Right.
I think they actually built out their backstage too. So like they added to their stage a little bit. So they had a little bit more depth on stage. So what we did was we came up with this concept of doing LED wall and a trussing structure that we could hang the LED walls on. We didn't do the drum cage, did we? We built.
We did not do that. No.
We designed the stage. So let's take a look through here. Y'all jump in if you see anything. Here's some concept drawings for their production suite over here. Their audio control booth that we designed. And then a green room that's off the side of the audio control room that could be used as a tracking or a live room, podcast, whatever. But then also just a place for the band to hang out in between services. So if we look at the floor plan here, look at that. It's a square room in an angle. That's what it is. So we also took the front of house area and moved it out front so that they get a little bit of in the room sound.
Right.
That was a big thing for them. You can see here, this is obviously the auditorium, and then this was the addition here. So this was a kitchen and all this other stuff, and they had to completely demo this area for the production suite, rack room, media suite or audio control, and then this green room here. So if you look here, we kind of laid out the production suite for all the positions, audio control as well. Let me see here. Some elevations of those rooms, some stage stuff. We had some stage wedges installed in the floor.
Yep,
it was kind of cool. Elevation. So we were going to hang the speakers as well. We got them a couple more speakers, so they have 4 900s, I think. That's the front of house area, design and drawings or whatever. Some of them. I don't know if there's anything else cool in this. Oh, rack assignments for all the custom desks and custom panels and all this stuff, man. So, yeah. All right. Well, that's the design, and now we can go to some of the install stuff.
So most of that design and construction stuff happened. We weren't there. Obviously, we're in Florida.
Right.
So we're trying to manage all that from across the country.
Right.
Using Steve as a eyes on the ground, basically.
Right.
In that location, dealing with the electrician who happened to be good. You guys remember I remember you guys talking about the electrician.
Oh yeah. The electrician was kind of the GC on the project. GC, yeah. He did a lot of stuff. He's the best. I wish I knew his name. He's the best GC we've probably ever worked with.
Because he actually, I mean, it was like, I'll be done in 2 days, and you're like, all right, whatever.
I've heard that before.
Be done. But he really was, or he was done ahead of time and really helped, like a team player guy. Yep. Kind of reminded of us, you know.
He was a member.
And he had one helper that was, you know, he was doing electrician stuff one day and then painting the next day.
Right.
It was just the two of them knocking it out.
Taking down the old screen.
They rebuilt the stage.
Rebuilding the stage. And yeah, they were awesome, man. They were hard-working dudes.
Yeah.
He was doing some cool projects on the side of that too. So he did a ton of Tesla superchargers. That was his thing. So that was like his big contract. And so he was doing this stuff on the side just to help the church.
Yeah.
But really great to work with. He got it all done on time, exactly to spec. Any issues he's found in the walls or whatever during the reno, he just took care of. Like it wasn't like a big headache. Sometimes you find these builders that they're looking for an issue just to delay something.
I swear that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the culture ridiculous. For some reason that we deal with a lot.
But yeah, this guy was awesome. I wish I remember his name. I remember walking in with his shirt. Can y'all see the shirt? Yeah. So this is our Crown Design Group Loves America shirt.
Right.
And I walk in, and he goes, y'all can wear those in Florida? And I'm like, yeah, dude. He's like, man. He's like, can't wear that stuff around here. I'm like, are you kidding me? Is California that jacked up that they can't see an American flag? And then I look at his hat, and his logo, he has an American flag like with his logo as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, you're a patriot, right? You love this country and everything. And he's like, heck yeah. He's like, I'm a wear it all the time, but people are going to give you weird looks around here. That's so weird to me, dude. I mean, how did the American flag turn into a political issue? I mean, that's the thing that's supposed to unite us all. Right. No matter who you are, what you believe, that's a uniting symbol. Guess not.
It's just state to state, man. It's so different. I mean, not to talk bad in California, but by the way, we still get, this was 2 days ago.
Oh my goodness.
We still get paperwork from the state of California saying we still owe taxes for this job that we did in 2019, by the way, that we've paid multiple times. And, you forgot to pay this tax. You forgot to pay this one. So now you're going to get a penalty too. So you got to pay that. You waited too long to pay it. So now it's in this penalty. Now you need to pay this tax. It hasn't stopped, by the way. It's 2024. We got that 2 days ago, saying that we still owe like $3,500 in taxes.
How's that possible? That's unbelievable.
It doesn't end.
That's not true. That can't be true.
It's made me never want to work there again.
Sorry, Steve.
Or at least we sneak in. We tried to come in. We did it right. Maybe this was our problem. We followed all the rules. We went in. We followed all the rules. We got every kind of license, whatever we needed, and registered for the state, the whole thing, so we could work there properly with the state of California.
No good deed goes unpunished.
You
try and do it the right way. The government goes, oh, you're doing it the right way. Well, here you go. Well,
anyway,
yeah. So imagine that guy doing Tesla stations and stuff, having to deal with that every day.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, just working there in general.
Yeah, the guy was awesome.
The church had to pay tax, by the way.
Unfortunately, I think he left the church because of COVID stuff.
Yeah, he didn't like
probably.
Guy was too hardcore.
He didn't like that they had services outside. They were listening to the state. So
really,
yeah, that was the reason. That was why he left. Yeah.
Everyone has an opinion. The church, every church I know was trying to figure it out. It was not an easy time for churches to figure out. Like, okay, I mean, you saw the churches in Canada that they're going and arresting pastors and stuff. Right. They're like going in during service, taking them out in handcuffs. Like that stuff's like in the media. And then you're being told you can't have services or 6 feet everywhere, or you have to do this or testing and blah, blah, blah. And these churches, everyone, I mean, businesses, everyone, but specifically churches that we were dealing with, everyone had a different opinion on it. Everyone had a different stance. Everyone was trying their best to maneuver through it. It was a tough time.
Yeah. The problem was where you didn't get to have your stance in some states. That you just didn't get the option. That's where the problem started happening.
Right.
In Florida, you could. I mean, there was a couple of weeks or whatever. But then if you wanted to open up, you could. It was kind of your thing. In other states like California, and a lot of other states, they just didn't get that option at all. And this whole project ended up, it's weird, phase 1 and phase 2 was in this COVID world.
Right. The media was looking for churches that were gathering and then trying to pin like super spreader event happening at this church youth group or something like that.
Yeah.
It was so ridiculous, man.
Yeah. Such a weird time.
Right.
I think we'll look back and look at pictures and all that and be a little weirded out by it, honestly.
I hope so.
I mean, we obviously are, but
right. Okay. Let's keep on moving. So here's some install pics. This is I think this is the rack I think we moved things around. I can't remember. Oh, here's some of the demo stuff that happened inside that kitchen. There's a lot of moving parts, and look how horrible this looks. But
so I think you took those pictures in phase 1 when we were visiting, doing the first, inside the auditorium, and they were still, just starting demo in that kitchen area.
Right.
I think that's when these were from.
Yep. It's us working on the design so diligently with a perfectly placed picture in the back and the whole thing, and looking good, everyone.
That's definitely a social media poster there.
Right. This was when we showed up, I think, for phase 2.
Straight off the plane, just walked in. We timed it to where we walked in as their service was ending. So we had Sunday to Sunday to get it going.
It's one of those things again, like the timing.
Right. So this is a great example of what we have to deal with working primarily with churches, because Sunday to Sunday, that's it. So imagine walking in on a Sunday afternoon after church and it looks like that. And then we have to change the whole room, the other room, every single piece of equipment needs to work. Every single piece of equipment needs to be installed, programmed. Wild. And we did it. So
barely.
I mean, yeah, I think we were working there about an hour before our flight. That was a tight one.
Yep.
We were oh, that's right, yeah.
Oh yeah, you throw that in the mix, being out of state and having flights scheduled and not having the right vehicles there just to run somewhere and grab parts that you need, or the right tools because you can only ship so much or carry on so much in the airplane. It just adds so many levels to that, on top of just trying to make everything work and happen. So,
okay, you ready for the? I've got some pretty pictures.
Oh yeah, so
boom. That's what it looked like.
So this is actually these are post phase 1. So this is after that first week in January.
Right.
This was just in the room what we got where we ended up before we headed out.
Yep. So what are we looking at here, Ben?
Big LED wall, and I think we might have said it, or maybe we didn't, but we had to build a trussing structure there for all that stuff because you saw the ceiling in there. It was very difficult to rig anything.
Right.
In that room, so they wanted to move to an LED wall. Obviously, we talked about that a lot as well in the podcast, but they were able to jump into it. We had to figure out how to ground stack it. So that's an Abton wall. They got the 16:9 there in the center for their main graphics and video content and such. And then we call them ribbons on the side just for kind of eye candy. Just so there's not black spaces, but.
Yep. So before we jump into that, let's keep going on video here for a second. So we had, I think, 2 different processors, one for the center, one for the sides.
Yep.
And then we just broke up the graphics from ProPresenter across both.
Correct.
And then they could do like custom. They could either use the same images for the center on the sides, or they could send
something different.
Something different. Yep.
Yeah.
So
that way they could do custom graphics even if they wanted to on those ribbons. They could do cool little vertical things with their graphics.
Yep.
Pretty cool setup.
Yeah, you can see here that we flew the PA. So we flew the 3 Leopards per side. Can you look up the other speakers that we got? Because I think I'm seeing some front fills here. I forget which ones we used. We have the 3 Leopards per side flown. That was so difficult to figure that room out, man. Oh my goodness. And like the best place to put those, it was very difficult. But I mean, it was way better than on the stage floor.
So we added 2 900s.
Yep, so they had 4 900s on the floor.
And then there's a UP Junior in there. I don't know where that was.
So we had 2 UP
like
Junior
center fill or something like that, or
I think we had 2. They had a UP Junior as a center fill, I believe.
Oh, and so we added an additional one.
We added one, and then we had 2 outfills. So
gotcha.
Somewhere around here, somewhere behind this, because that room just kind of juts out on this side, there's just no way of getting the coverage on the speaker. Right. So we did some outfills. Those are the juniors. And then we had the front fills. Are those 4XPs?
I don't see them on here.
Yeah.
4XPs. Yep.
Yep. 4XPs on the stage. So yeah, this room ended up sounding really good. These Leopards,
that's a great PA.
They're one of my favorite line arrays, man. I've said it for years. They are one of my favorite line arrays. They sound amazing. They're very powerful, low power consumption.
Right.
I like them a lot. They are very Meyer, meaning they're very flat. That's their whole thing. Right. Meyer's big thing is sound in like a microphone, sound out of a speaker.
Right.
So, I like having I'd rather have a flat speaker than a speaker that pumps a bunch of these weird frequencies to try and make things sound better, or to try and make things sound louder, to have a different SPL reading. But Meyer's pretty flat, and for us, you musically tune it so that it sounds a little bit more musical. That's kind of what you do. But you have all that chunk of sound there to work with. You can carve out of that chunk, or you can paint on that canvas sonically. So, PA sounded great. We also updated their console to a D-Live. So that's what was that, C3500?
I believe so.
So they had C3500. and a DM something or other in the rack.
48 CDM 48.
CDM 48.
Yep.
So this is Alan.
Stuff.
This is Alan Heath's flagship console, right? Or they have an S class. The S class and the C class are exactly the same sonically, close to the same in sizes for surfaces. I think the only difference with the S class stuff versus the CDM stuff is hot swappable power supplies and additional card slots. I think that's it. Does it sound right to you, Luke?
I mean, I think so. Yeah, we don't really do S classes in churches. It's more of a tour grade style.
Yeah, having those hot swappable power supplies, that's a typical thing on tour because you're out somewhere, you're using dirty power, or something funny happens. You want to have an extra power supply just to quickly throw in. Power supply dies on this puppy, you're sending the whole thing in. We had a DM we had a DM 64 have a power supply die once. We did have that. Remember?
No.
Yeah, we had it with Action Church.
Oh yeah.
And we had to get.
That's right.
We had to get the power supply, and it was very expensive. I remember.
Not ideal.
Not ideal, but you could do it. It's ended up being cheaper than having to ship a whole console in to get fixed.
Right.
So this was the X32 to a D Live. That ain't bad, people.
It's a pretty good jump.
That's a pretty good jump. There is the I think that's a Phoenix drum enclosure. I like those.
Yep.
Especially on a stage where you have so much LED. Like,
yeah, with as much plexiglass as there, you get the option of seeing through it, which is nice. Fill it up with LED stuff behind it. Yeah, that's it. That is a Phoenix. I remember talking to him about that back when we were talking about this. But.
Right. So good looking stage now. I liked it. So here's some rack stuff. So those are some processors for the LED wall. They've got their video hub router, their ATEM switcher, a bunch of mics and distros. So they went from that last rack backstage, a little 8U to a nice looking rack here.
And I think their mics were at front of house before too. I saw the antenna in that first site pick.
That would make sense. Yep.
Oh yeah.
So now it's all racked in one place and it's looking good. Okay, so this is actually their audio control room. So this is where they mix their broadcast mix. If you don't know, typically, if you can, mixing an independent mix for your online service is best. You can try and get lucky with setting up your left and right from your front of house, like from your main room, but having that extra detail control for online and essentially for a phone, it just turns into an iPhone.
Right.
Like most people are watching these services on an iPhone, so being able to listen to that, monitor that, reference that is very important.
Especially during this time, because this was COVID.
This is COVID.
And all they had was their online. I mean, that's all anybody had.
I mean, when we quoted it, it was 2019, so they were not. I mean, they just got it at the perfect time. It
worked out. This whole thing worked out for them. I'll tell you that, because you saw the before pictures. They were not set up for a great online streaming setup, video or audio, and then it turned into the worst case scenario. So I'm glad they did it.
Yep. So this was their audio control room, and they ran a Pro Tools rig. So we have some of those surfaces. Yep. You know what surfaces those are?
S1.
S1s. So two S1s. Mm-hmm. They connect together nicely. I think it's like magnets.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And they're running. We had an interface in here too, right? Yeah, there you go. So this room was actually dual use. They use it for mixing their broadcast mix for service for online, but they also write and record during the week, their own songs, their own production, whatever. And so they also wanted to utilize this room for tracking, for mixing, not just broadcast, but for studio projects.
Right.
So we gave them here an API lunchbox with a bunch of pre's, different colored pre's, different solutions for microphones and everything, so that they could track. You have the models on those?
Yep.
These are all 500 series API. The Lunchbox makes things pretty easy, because then you can just swap out whatever modules you want.
Yeah, an API. I can't see my vision so bad. API 1500, which is something. We have a solid state logic pre.
Yep.
API 512C.
Yep.
We have a Rupert Neve design 511.
Yep.
Nice.
There's 2 of each of those, and then there's 2 slots at the end. We had one. I think that was the only thing that was back ordered and didn't arrive before the end of that job.
Do you remember the Midas? We have a Midas pre on here too. Midas 502.
That would have been it.
Yeah, that's probably what.
Yeah.
It's not there.
So you put a bunch of those pre's in this Lunchbox, and it kind of powers every unit, and then you have I/O on the back side of it. All that's going into their interface here. So they had 2 setups. They had the setup for live broadcast, and then they had set up for tracking, mixing.
We have a bunch of wave stuff on here too. Did they do waves in here, or did they not do it? I don't see it.
Maybe been after the fact.
Yeah.
But this is the audio control room. It turned out awesome. It was clean and clear in there. Sounded good. They have a multi-view there to be able to watch service and see what's coming up. We had a Focusrite monitor controller. So that's actually Dante.
Yeah, that's the AM2. So it just takes in Dante, and then that's what's driving their near fields.
So that's going through our DSP for room EQ, and also for source selection, so that they can send different things to those speakers too, right? Is that it? Do you remember? I'm sure of it.
I can't remember.
I can remember. But yeah, that's the audio control room. Turned out real nice. We have a network switch there. I think all of the interconnects between all these different sources was Dante. So that's why we had that Dante controller. And
we sourced all that furniture too.
Yep, Argosy console.
Yep. We did sound panels too.
Yep, did sound panels. Did everything.
Yeah,
it's all us. And then we're here in the other right beside that room is the production suite here, and this is where we have all these different positions for the room. Do you remember all the positions, Luke?
Yep. So the back left there, that was their graphics 1 position. So they had a graphics 2 at front of house, but they primarily, Sunday morning, they're running from ProPresenter on graphics 1 there.
Yep.
And then that's their tape op, where you are now on the back right. So that's where they're kind of monitoring their live stream feed.
Well,
so
do you remember what they were using?
When we first did this, I think they were doing like Boxcast or something, or maybe just OBS solution.
Yep.
And they've since done Resi. I think we took them over to Resi, but during this install, it was like a Blackmagic web presenter to get them into the computer through OBS and everything. And then on the front desk, in the center, is the...
Sorry.
That's all right. Video director is in the center. So they got their ATEM panel.
Yep.
Then left over there is the camera engineer. So they got their RCPs, and they have a good 4K monitor right in front of them that they can switch the input to. So they can get whatever they're working on, they can make that their own personal input to do any shading that they need to. Those are Scarhoy RCPs.
Yep, and those are controlling those are the Panasonic Evas that we installed here. So they had 2 of them going. I think they use a couple Roman cameras too. I think they're Sony's though, but so you can see here they have some scopes. Look at the coloring. They have a router controller here for this screen essentially, so that they can bring up different cameras on the go or different sources and take a look at them. Then was there a position over here or no? Can't remember.
I can't remember. It's really dark.
You can see their comm. We use a Gringo network or comm over IP solutions there. You have to see their multi-views there. So yeah, this room turned out nice. This is outside, I think. We put an I/O panel. That's a cool before and after.
Yeah, so that was the phase 1, the Sunday to Sunday we did.
Yep.
So that was when we walked in was the first picture, and then essentially when we walked out was the second.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. 1 week, people. 7 days.
Yeah.
Less than 7 days.
I mean, we haven't even seen the pictures of all the lighting that we put in on that trussing. I think in the photos earlier, we were kind of highlighting the LED wall, but all that trussing has lighting on it, some blinders, some truss warmers.
Yep.
We did all new front lighting, I believe. The house lighting, I think they already had color pendants, and I just remember, I think we rerouted that. They had like a DMX coming from front of house, and we rerouted that to join our network. But
gotcha. This is a green room right beside the audio control room, so we put a little bit of a treatment in there just to cut it down a bit. I don't know if they've used it for tracking, but it's a cool hangout room.
Yeah, we put a panel in there.
We put an input panel,
mm-hmm.
Right? So they have input I/O between this room and the studio, so that they can essentially just plug right into the wall, and then they can route it on one of the pre's, and then push it through Pro Tools. Let's take a look. Let's see if we can find that camera again. Did I miss all this stuff? Oh, it's way up here. My bad.
There we go.
There we go. So yeah, this is the camera setup. It was an EVA, which is one of Panasonic's cinema cameras, with a bunch of rig on it. It's got what's that iris control? The focus and iris.
I was trying to remember.
Tilta?
Tilta, maybe.
Is that Tilta? And then Canon lens, all the accoutrement. Ozen camera thing. See, cameras are so strange because these manufacturers like Panasonic, just that camera body, like it doesn't work on its own. So they go around trying to sell this little camera body for the image, but they don't have lensing. I mean, Panasonic has lenses,
right, but
they don't have like cinema lenses or broadcast cinema lenses.
Right.
So it's so strange that you get a company that puts out a camera body, and then you pay more in third party items to get the camera working than you do for the camera body.
Yeah, way more. it's the body's like a third of the price a lot of times, and then the rest of your pricing is everything else just to make the body work.
Right. Some scenarios we'll have a $5,000 camera body,
right,
connected to a $70,000 lens,
right.
And that's not uncommon.
Right.
Crazy. But the claim of these cameras are we've put a bunch of these cameras in all over the place.
This was the time where the whole cinema thing was starting to like push into churches.
Right.
Like they wanted that cinema vibe, but like in a broadcast scenario.
Right.
Well, and churches are moving to LED walls, so
true.
All of a sudden, quality's in.
That's right.
Yeah. So these cameras boast a lot of features that broadcast cameras require, but you can also set them up to have different looks. So variable frame rate is the big deal. If you know anything about video and standards, like with switchers, everything has to be the same standard. Meaning, if you're running 1080p 60, like every source needs to be 1080p 60 for it to get inside of the switcher without scaling.
Right.
And that way, everything's clocked and timed and looking good together. But you might not want the look of a 1080 60p look, like
right,
camera look. So these cameras have a variable frame rate, which means you can set them up to look like a 24 frame, like cinema.
Yep.
It looks like a movie. We're used to looking at 24 frames film. That's
right,
what film was, 24 frames a second. And so you can take these cameras and change that to a 24 or a 29.97 or whatever you want in between, and it will still push out a physical signal at 1080p 60 for the rest of your broadcast.
Right.
But it will look like it's 24 frames.
Right.
And what people do, we have a bunch of different churches that do this scenario, and they will usually have like a 24 frame look during worship, right? Would you say?
Mm-hmm.
And then like during the message, they'll want it to look more like broadcast.
Right.
So they'll click a button, or they'll use the RCP to change from 24 frame look to 60p look.
Right.
So yeah, so those are the cameras. So we did 2 cameras in here. We did a tight center and a wide center, and then they had a roaming, I think, that they just kind of used on their own. But so those are the pretty pictures. I've got some launch pictures too, but I want to kind of talk a little bit about getting this thing going.
Both were crazy. I remember phase 2. I think we clocked 80 hours in a 40-hour work week. So
phase 2?
Yeah, phase 2 was a doozy, but phase 1 was also in its own right. Was crazy because of all the network issues and everything. So
right. So let's get into that. AV networks. Oh my goodness. We have had to turn into IT nerds. We've had to turn into network people. We're audio guys. We're lighting guys. We're video dudes. And now we have to deal with network switches all the time. And it's only over the last, I
was going to say, it's standard now.
Standard now.
It is what it is. But then 2019 or whatever this was, 2019 or 20, you didn't have, some stuff just wasn't on network at that point even, but it was changing over. And so that was the big learning time.
Right.
Where, we had to figure that stuff out. Yeah. Particularly on this job.
Right. So we had, in phase 1, we had implemented a simple network just for some minor communications.
Yep.
So we put it a network switch at front of house and one in the back in the rack. And that was just for minimal communication between things, but we were also connected to their network, which we didn't have much control over.
We implemented all of QSYS in the main room on that network.
We did?
And we had the Dante network going for all everything. DLive was talking to QSYS and all that audio routing. So, it was kind of hefty on that first trip because that's when all the chaos broke out with those Dell switches.
I was going to say, this was the trip with the switches, right? And
phase 2. That was phase 2.
Well, we had chaos on both, but the first one was also an issue because that's what we stuck around for after service. Remember the night before service and the whole
was that first service?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was phase 1.
Phase 1, first service. Okay. All right. Let's get into this.
Yeah.
What network switch do we have for that?
So we had some Dell switch that was supposed to be provisioned by QSYS.
This is it.
Yeah.
Spent a bunch of money to get these certain switches that were supposed to be set up and provisioned by
ready to go.
QSC or QSYS, whatever.
Right.
To help us to make it easier. So we went down that road to save some time and money. Not save money, save some time, hopefully, and headache.
Right.
But it wasn't the case.
Right. So we got these Dell switches, which were supposed to be plug and play, ready to go, provisioned perfectly for QLAN, Dante, everything in between. And we just wanted this project to go smoothly.
Yeah, the time crunch and everything. Out of state, flights, the whole thing. It had to happen in a certain amount of time.
Right. So what do? We got the best thing that
bit the bullet, got the expensive switches that were set up and ready to go.
And we plugged them all in and we got it working during that first phase 1 week where we're doing the installs and stuff. And this is your first week.
Oh yeah, I knew nothing about networks or really anything.
And you're just walking around what are we doing here?
I was the Home Depot runner and trying to grab all these things. I have no idea what they are. I had some funny photos of go get some J hooks. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And I came back with the hooks you hang your bike by in the garage. I was like, J hooks.
Will those work? I don't know. Yeah, so you were brand new.
Oh yeah, so I'm getting to witness all this firsthand as you're pulling your hair out. So
right, so we put in the switches, we get everything going, and then this is Saturday night.
Yeah,
Saturday night they have their first rehearsal.
Yep.
So this is the first rehearsal with new console. What else do we do for that first service?
Everything. It was a new LED wall, new lighting.
For phase 1?
For phase 1, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because everything in the room. So we did Vista, and I think they were using Vista before, but we added all that lighting on the truss, all the new front lighting.
Right.
All the LED walls were in, and the trussing. The stage was technically new. So all new floor pockets, all new inputs, I/O, full Dante, everything like that.
Right.
So
okay, so we got these special switches that are going to make our lives super easy and just, plug and play is going to be awesome. Yay, I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. And we plug it all in, and all week it worked great. Everything was perfectly fine. Saturday night, so the night before the first service, this is phase 1. Band comes out, starts doing some line check. We're like, yay, things are sounding good. Yay, great. And all of a sudden, network starts dropping. I'm like, what the heck is going on right now? And network's dropping. And then I'm like, oh crap. And all these bands coming in, pastors are there to hear everything. It's like, it's the great, showing off the project. And our network's dropping. Our network's dying. So I'm looking around. I'm going, we got to get through this rehearsal. So what do? We literally grabbed a dummy switch.
Well, Austin Keegan started pulling cable across the floor,
right.
Making custom tie lines to the stage, just direct patching basically.
We had a couple cables that they ran real quick and terminated, and then landed on a dummy switch.
Yep.
And we're just going through different dummy switches, trying to get signal from off of the main network.
Yep. Yeah, we've learned a lot since then.
Right. So we had to do that right in the thick of it, right in the middle of rehearsal.
Yep.
Everything looked like it was perfectly great all week. But what ended up happening was that extra bandwidth, having all that audio streaming over the networks took it down. Those switches were not ready for Dante, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that was before, that was all the multicast settings and everything and all the QoS, like none of that had been kind of set up. And this was kind of the beginning of the industry standard of Dante. So, we're coming from all this, where Giga Ace and S-Link are kind of just direct, one-to-one connections. And now there's no guides for Dante really out there. There's not like switch. Now you can find like guides for your specific model of switch and it's easy, just follow the guide. But back then there were no guides. And it's like, that's why we got the switch we had, and we didn't really know why it worked at the time. So when it didn't, what can you do? You kind of go back to just, okay, well, let's start direct connecting some stuff and seeing if we get it to work.
So that night, after that first rehearsal, this is Saturday night, we had the whole band there. We got through rehearsal, like we got enough, line checks, and they played some songs, and it sounded good, and all that. But it was not through the network we set up. The cables run across the room, all this stuff. And so that night, I remember we sat there all night trying to fix it.
Yep.
All night, literally all night. I was on the phone with some dude in Thailand.
That's right.
He was the tech expert for that switch. And he was walking me through the whole thing, trying to figure it out, and he couldn't figure it out. For hours and hours and hours. Yep. All night. Trying to test all these different QoS settings, test different VLANs, all this stuff. What was supposed to be plug and play was not. And we were up all night. I think we went back to what did we do?
Yeah, we got McDonald's at like 3 or 4 a.m., which was Pacific time. So when we were pulling you in on FaceTime, you're 3 hours later.
Yeah, I was in Florida.
Ben was, you were in Florida and you were helping us.
I had not yet met Ben because
we hadn't even met
still my first week.
But it was 4 or 5 a.m. in Florida when we were talking.
Yeah, we worked till probably 4 a.m. Got some McDonald's. It did not taste very good.
Nothing tastes good at 4 a.m. Not even McDonald's.
I went back to the haunted house Airbnb we had.
I forgot.
How could you forget?
Oh my goodness.
The one where Keegan's windows all blew open. He had like 3 walls of windows and they all blew open in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that was like the only Airbnb we could find in Ventura.
Yep.
It was so expensive.
So expensive. And it was like a historical building.
Yeah.
It was like I had a little like vanity sink in the bedroom, like right beside the bed. It's like that's old school.
That's right. Your sink was in your room.
It was in my room.
And then you had your bathroom just off the room, but it was just the toilet.
Very strange. Very strange.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And oh my goodness, that's the time when I had an issue. I had an issue. I had an issue on my back.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I want to gross everyone out. Should we?
Give the PG version of it.
There was a slight medical emergency that happened at the house.
Oh my goodness. Well, actually, it started on the way over there.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna get into this. This might be a little too much information.
We'll come back to the network.
This is the life of an integrator. This is the flashy life of an integrator. On the flight over, on the plane, like I felt something in my back. It was like bugging me. I was like, "What the heck is on my back, dude?" And we land and like we're working, and then I remember like being inside the rack, the equipment rack, and like putting some stuff up, and I pushed back, and the edge of the rack hit my back right on this spot, and I almost fainted. Like I was just like, "Oh my goodness, what's going on?" It hurt so bad, and I remember going into like the restroom, like pulling up my shirt, and I had like an ingrown hair or something, and it was like an infected bump on my back.
Yeah,
it was like I was being cursed. It was like a Job moment where here doing this install, and like my back is hurting like crazy. And I'm in so much pain. I'm like, oh my goodness, I gotta get this fixed. I was calling.
Who'd you bring in?
Well, at first I called like doctors and like general surgeons and stuff to see if I could like find a place and get in, like cut me open and fix me. Like I can't even think right now. Like my shirt hurt, like everything hurt. And everyone I talked to was like, well, yeah, you gotta come in, have an appointment, then we'll see what it is, and then we'll get you a general surgeon to do whatever. And I was like, that's not an option. We need action. I can't get through this week like this. So what I do, I went to my brother Keegan. and I said, Keegan, you're my brother. I need your help with something. He's like, what do you need help with? I'm like, I need you to look at my back. And I pull up my shirt, and he's like, okay, yeah, it doesn't look very happy right now. I'm like, well, I think you're going to have to cut me open and figure something out.
What's that called? Lance? Is it called a lance? When you cut a wound open so it can release? I think it's called lance.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe I'm telling this story. It's horrible. Well, that night, Keegan's like, yeah, man, I'll do whatever you need me to do, man. I'm like, okay, thanks.
So these two slip out after Austin and I are asleep. Oh, and Peyton. Peyton was with us.
Peyton. Shout out Peyton, everybody. Yep.
So all of us are just fast asleep in our haunted house, and you and Keegan sneak out to CVS to get some medical supplies.
Yeah, I got like blades. I got iodine. I got needles. I got swabs, gloves.
Some pain
medication, aka a 12-pack of something or other. And yeah, it was horrible, man. We used ice to try and numb my back, and then Keegan just got cutting and prodding and poking and ripping at it and tried to fix me up. And it was very painful in the haunted house.
In the haunted house?
In the middle of the night.
Yep.
But Keegan did it. He had... it was horrible, man. It was horrible. He helped me out. He had to help me out like 2 nights. Like the first night, I was like, oh, I felt so much better. And then the next day, I'm like, it still hurts. And then he helped me out more.
Well, so we got back to the Airbnb probably 10 p.m. that night. And, we all go to bed like usual. And then the next morning, I think I opened the fridge and there's just an empty case of beer. And I'm like, we got home at 10 p.m. We had no idea anything happened.
Right.
And then we got the story.
Yeah. And I'm like, I think I remember y'all coming into the family room. And I was like, y'all want to hear what happened last night? And I'm like, well, Keegan cut my back open, and it worked. So thank you, Keegan, or my general surgeon.
Yep. Had to happen.
Well, that has nothing to do with the install itself. But that happened on the road, and it sucked, man. And, that really did suck. But I'm better. It worked. Cut me open, whatever.
So yeah, I guess that came from, we got back to this haunted house at 4 a.m.
Okay, that was
on the last Saturday.
Last Saturday, different night. My back has been drained.
Yep.
Ripped open, cut open, and stitched up, and the whole thing.
Yep.
Just a chunk of a wood in my mouth. And so that last night we went home for like an hour.
Came back at 6 a.m. I think.
And I was just praying that all the stuff we put together for to get the whole thing going, because we have to go get through service. Sunday's coming, it's there. Yep. And the network failed, but we have to figure this out and keep it going.
Yeah.
And we did. We got through it. We just I forget we had a semi solution by the time we left, but it was like that morning.
Kind of limp mode, but we got through it.
Right. And we got it up to a point where we could, where we got through service fine. Right. Went well.
We knew it wasn't the permanent solution, but
right.
We were praying that this was the solution to get us through the morning. So
right. And so that was phase 1.
Yep.
Phase 1, we did all that.
And we stuck around after service and spent every minute we had before our flights to keep working on the network and everything.
Right.
Yeah, I can't remember what we were doing, but
yeah, the switches were not provisioned correctly. That's what it was. They were not plug and play. They weren't provisioned correctly. And now you talk to them about that, they say, "Oh yeah, we knew," or like we're working on it still. And I'm like, "Wow, thanks for selling."
And having nothing to fall back on, other projects or history of network stuff was like a killer for that whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, it's been 5 years almost since then. So the amount of networks and stuff that's happened since then, we've probably seen almost everything that can happen. So you can like go through those files in your head and recall information to make fixes and make it happen. But on this, it was so new, and there just wasn't. We didn't have people to even call, or past projects to even think of. Or I remember I was just Googling stuff at home. I didn't even know what I was Googling. I was just trying to Google stuff in the middle of the night in Florida. But yeah, pretty nuts.
Before that point, all our customers had an IT dude or something.
Right.
And so we were always working with them.
Right.
And typically they could figure things out and get things going.
Yeah, it was more on them.
It was more on them. Yeah. There's a transition period. This is probably the beginning of that transition period where more items are on networks. There's more demand on the networks for AV.
Right.
And so we decided that we'd take on some of these network roles. Nowadays, we just do it all.
Right.
We do all the network. We know more about these networks and integrating AVL items than your typical IT management company.
Right.
Yeah, just a lot of really specific settings and details for things like Dante, where, I mean, even back then, I remember the same thing. I was like, Garrett wants me to call all these companies and be like, "Hey, do you have a switch for Dante?" Like, what's Dante? It's just that was where we were at the time. Right. But even now, now we understand how sensitive and breakable Dante and all these other AVL specific protocols are. Right. That it's a lot easier just to take it in. And I mean, everything we do now is on the network. So
right.
We have these robust networks now. It's everything's got to communicate with each other. So
absolutely,
it kind of that's the force of, I think, across the AVL landscape is that, well, everything's network based now. So that has to become part of your repertoire.
Yep, got to be a nerd. Got to be an IT nerd all of a sudden. You can't be a cool audio guy. Just like, yeah, sounds awesome, man. It's like, oh, IP address is wrong. But yeah, so we got them going and we got it to limp mode, and they were good.
Yep.
And they were good for the whole year. Like we did some stuff remotely or whatever and fixed things up, but they were good to go. So coming into phase 2,
we knew where those switches were, that they were like, we didn't know why they were working necessarily. We did enough stuff to make it work and stable, but we had a year of development. I mean, even the industry had a year of development to where, well, now there's a new switch that is, the Cisco SG series is that. Now that's the Dante switch. That's what everyone's using.
Right. So we came prepared in phase 2 to try and clean all that stuff up. We had to add things anyways to the network because we were adding in the production suite and the audio control room. And so we came in with a plan. We came in with new switches. We did like training for the switches. We did we pulled in some third party IT people to like help us set them up. We did everything. We did everything right again. So phase 1, we did the right thing by buying the pre-configured switch that doesn't work.
Yep. Phase
2, we come in even more prepared with these new switches. And then guess what? It was a nightmare again. We're on phase 2 now, trying to get this whole thing going. And once again, our Dante network is looking good all week, right? Mm-hmm. I had like music playing from YouTube.
That's right.
Across every single IO.
It was that one study music.
Chill hop.
Chill hop.
Chill hop autumn
24/7 for a week.
Chill hop autumn edition.
80
if we can
hours
find
of
a
work.
picture, I'll send it to you, Ben, and throw it in there because it's actually some good stuff, man. I like that background.
Just
chill
listening
stuff.
all week. Everyone's job was just to listen for an audio dropout, and it was the same chill hop.
Play it 24/7 to be conclusive that this thing is solid and ready to go.
I still hear it in my dreams. It's crazy.
Yeah, while we were doing all the other install items, while we were like putting in the custom desks, which by the way we didn't even talk about it. Like in the production suite, those were custom built AV consoles.
That's right.
So we had, I think that was American Technical Furniture.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that was stuck at the warehouse, so we had to get a moving truck. You remember that?
Right. We had to rent a moving truck. Yeah. They're like, oh yeah. We were like, where is this thing? It's supposed to be here. And then they're like, oh yeah, it's stuck here. We can't bring it. We're like, we need it tomorrow, dude. And so we rented we're like, can we come pick it up?
Yep.
And we did. Yeah. While we're doing all that stuff, we have Chill Hop playing in the background 24/7, just the same songs over and over again for days. And you got accustomed to the songs. And so you'd be like, kind of doing this while you're doing some programming. And then you'd hear a little, and you'd be like, was that the Dante network dropping? And it was like that all week. And it'd be little crunchy sounds, little things that popped up, little artifacts. And really, I mean, what it was grand, what do they call them now? Leaders? Grand leader? What are they called now? Not master?
Leaders and followers.
Yeah. Leaders and followers.
Masters
people.
and slaves didn't make it to 2024.
Wokeness has made its way into Dante. Whatever. But yeah, we'd listen for those sounds. And we started hearing it. So we were doing everything we could. Everything was configured correctly. Everything was perfectly right. And we started hearing that issue.
Back on the phone with the overseas tech support.
Yep. Back over.
Different switch though. So now we're with the Cisco guys.
Right.
Trying to figure it out.
No
one knows what Dante is still.
We're on the phone with the DSP company. We're on the phone with Cisco. We're on the phone with our network people, like our extra network gurus that like know more than us. Everyone. And Ben again, probably. In the middle of the night again, probably.
I remember looking for physical switches because at some point you guys were ready just to try a different switch.
Right.
Just to make it happen. And I remember just calling random tech stores, computer stores, whatever, in that California area, looking for just random switches.
Right. What's up, Keegan? So we put all these new network switches, Cisco's, everything, and everything was supposed to be perfect, and it wasn't perfect again.
Yeah.
That was the issue once again. And now it's even more involved. We have multiple different switches. We have way more going on now. We've got Pro Tools pulling in 64 tracks. We got a bunch of bandwidth issues and all this stuff. And I remember we got it to a certain point once again. We got through service. It went great, all that stuff. And we'll go over that. I'll show you that in a little bit. But I remember we still had a couple settings we had to figure out. Right.
Yep. So we're back here.
We're back. So now this is after install, continuing our network terror story.
This was really my baptism into I'm now the network guy. Crown was sitting next to you at your desk, and we had Cisco on the phone. We had them WebExing into our on-site computer. We were team viewing in, and we had all the settings open. We're talking to them and just pouring over the settings. And then we had, I think, Steve like in the audio control listening to Chill Hop and
probably
just seeing, because we had gotten through the weekend, but every once in a while they were still getting that digital artifacts.
Right.
So we're sitting here with everybody on. I forget who it was. It was like, we got to the point where it was like, all right, we got to try new switches. I think we pulled the Dell back out. We had the Dell out here. We were trying to figure that one out, seeing which one we could figure out first. I had bought plane tickets to go back to California.
We were literally buying
switches,
new switches
to be shipped there.
And then buying plane tickets to send someone back out away.
I was leaving the next morning with all the switches inbound. Like Austin's just going around buying like one of every switch at this point. Right. And then there was a moment where the guy, I think the Cisco guy, was pouring through the QoS, and he didn't really, he doesn't know what Audinate and QLAN what Dante and QLAN need necessarily. He doesn't know the requirements, but he's trying some different QoS, and all of a sudden it all just kind of clicked. I think there was some visual feedback. I can't remember if it was through Dante controller or what.
Yeah.
But everything just went green.
It went green.
Yeah, it went green. And it was an amazing moment. It was pretty, it was pretty tough to go through that. And like we went through a bunch of Cisco tech people, like, and they could not figure it out.
Right.
And then like everyone else we talked to for hours and hours and hours, no one could figure it out. And so it was like, what is going on here? What did we do wrong? You start like second guessing everything. You start thinking of like, do we have a bad cable? We tested the cables. Do we have a bad this? Do we have that? Is there something else?
We thought it was the 10 gig port on the iMac Pro for a while. We thought that was giving us trouble, or just anything, you're just trying to find it.
Probably, yeah. Cause in Dante controller, when there's issues, typically what you'll see is a different item that's not supposed to be the leader grabs the leader. And so you'll have multiple leaders on your network. And the thing that you'll think is, okay, that unit that's trying to grab leader is the culprit. That's the issue. And so it was probably that computer.
Yeah.
So we're like, well, there's something wrong with that stupid computer. Look at it. It keeps grabbing leader. It's still trying to grab, all that. Over the years, we've learned that these Dante controller issues may or may not have anything to do with the extra item grabbing leader, meaning it has nothing to do with that. It's the network. It's the network trying to grab the leader for timing, for syncing everything, and any other unit can come or go. When you say that, that's kind of the way.
Everything is syncing. Just the same way audio. Audio. There's a sync. There's a clock. Same thing with all this network gear. Is that all this audio has to be perfectly in line. All the latency has to line up. So otherwise, you're going to hear it.
Right.
So there's some device we set as the clock, and everything is supposed to fall in line and follow that clock. But when all the network settings aren't correct, they don't know where to look for that clock. They don't know how to know who to listen to, and so they assign themselves as the clock. So then you have all these multiple clocks pushing out their own metronome. So
right,
gets crazy fast.
Right. So we were dealing with that. So we were seeing things come and go. We were hearing artifacts, but it was typically green most of the time, and then you see a little red, or like one item went rogue, and is like, what's wrong with that thing? Until we finally had the Cisco tech on, and he was going through our switches for hours and hours. And we'd gone through how many different techs, and they were trying to help us.
I mean, he was calling back. Yeah, I was like, let me get the next guy, new guy on the shift, calling in, and then he'd try some stuff. And at some point, somebody figured it out. Yeah,
it was a multicast setting or something.
It was QoS.
It was QoS?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a QoS thing. You essentially have, I don't know, I'm not going to try to explain that one. It's too advanced. But yeah, he essentially just changed one of the QoS settings, and it all fell in line.
I don't know if that was it.
I think it was.
I think it was a port forwarding thing for, maybe not. I thought it was a multicast thing. I almost I think in my brain, I have a visual thing of him, of this tech, moving his mouse on our computer and doing something, and then looking over at Dante controller and just going green and going, don't touch another thing. Don't touch anything. It's working. And it was like a moment.
Yep.
I was like, oh, that was it. And the Cisco dude's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, well, that's what you do. Yeah, that's how you set it up. And I'm like, yeah, dude. Yeah, you could have told me that a week ago. But then it was working.
Yep.
It's so huge, man. Then it was like, all right, cancel the plane ticket.
Cancel the plane, yep.
Return the switches. Right. We're good to go.
Yeah.
It's such a huge moment.
Yeah. And I mean, since it's just gotten easy now all those switches have those guides, we get to lean on all of our previous configs. We can look at those and reference those for what we need.
Yeah. The big issue with networks right now is we are playing catch up. The whole AV world is playing catch up in the network world, and these switches, these companies, they don't necessarily care about us. They could be an enterprise. They're doing enterprise stuff. They're doing network switches for data centers and all this, selling thousands of switches and and peripherals and all that stuff.
The market share to AVL is pretty slim.
AVL market share for switches and everything is small.
Yeah.
So no one really cares. And what you have is us AVL dudes trying to manipulate these switches for our own use. And the problem was all these manufacturers that have proprietary communication on these switches, they don't want to say what switch, or they don't want to necessarily endorse a switch because they have no control over it. And so it was just the wild, wild west. No one wanted to say you can use a Netgear, you can use a Cisco, you can use a Dell. No one, except for that one Dell that was supposed to be
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, they finally endorsed the switch. Like, yeah, let's just flash it with this config file, and it's just going to work.
Right.
And then it didn't. So they're like, I think they retracted that after because they discontinued that whole sponsorship pretty fast. I mean, we still have it. So it's going in our trophy case now. Those Dell switches.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that was the issue. When they're saying, hey, you need to use a switch for this to work. Mm-hmm. And, hey, we can't tell you exactly which one will work in exact settings. That's what it was. And it's very difficult to figure that out.
Well, I mean, coming from a world, I mean, we went to the analog world, went digital, or this really cool digital snakes where it's just, like you said, point to point. It's AES-50 or S-Link or something where it is still plug and play. Yep. And you're just doing digital patching on the console, and that's easy. I mean, that was an easy jump for everybody, and it was awesome not having analog snakes. But Dante is kind of a bigger step than most. It's not just point to point plugs. It's over a network and protocols, and so there was a lot to learn.
Right. So that was an episode. That was a long scenario with those switches.
That was the worst part of that install. Everything else was pretty cool and relatively easy comparatively.
Compared to that network.
Yeah.
Right. So, oh yeah, sweet. Well, you want to see some pictures?
Yeah.
Install stuff?
The install?
Yeah.
Or the launch, we should say?
Yeah, launch. Let's see here. I think I got some video. Boom.
There you go.
Happen in place. Look at that. A little dark in the video, but there was a happen in place, man. It sounded good.
So this is actually part of phase one, where this was the first Sunday of phase one where we kind of put all these lights in, and then they didn't stick around to kind of program. We kind of had a communication mishap where they didn't program lighting, and we hadn't planned on it. And this is, once again, week one on the job, so I don't know how to program lighting. So I FaceTime Ben from Florida, and that was the one where you're sitting in your bed at like 2 a.m. and you're walking me through how to program on Vista. So it worked out though. We used the programming. So
yeah, I remember that because we had never even met before in person. You were our new employee, and here we are at 3 a.m. or whatever in the morning, trying to program lights.
Is this your video, Luke? Shaky cam? Oh my goodness, bro.
I wanted you to feel like you're in the room.
This is me mixing. You know it's good when the head's bobbing.
Oh yeah.
And this is a typical thing too. One of us will typically mix the first service.
Yeah, mix audio or run lights or help with video.
Right.
Just to make people feel more comfortable.
Right.
New volunteers or whatever.
And we're really good at getting a console up and running really quick. So, I mean, I forget. No, they were already using that console, but there's a couple different things. We did more training, and then I ran it as it's a proof of concept too. Yeah. If I can make the room sound good and it sounds great, well then heck, you shouldn't have any issue after that. But typically there's desk drift where people come in and, hey, we should be doing this. We should be doing that. And then all of a sudden everyone hates the sound and they call me back up and put it in. So yeah, and there's the production suite.
So yeah, this is where we hit phase two. So production suite was end of the job here. So I think phase two, I don't know if we stuck around for a Sunday because it was buttoned up against Thanksgiving. So they had a worship night, which was kind of the launch. Because we did that outdoor service on Sunday, and we stayed around, and then I think they did a worship night, like a Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. I think it was right before Thanksgiving. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that was their launch with this whole thing. So they had their video director come in and get all these new cameras up and running, and all their, train on all this new equipment and how to use it.
Right. Yeah. So that was the launch. It was awesome. At this point, everyone's coming in, taking a look at the new production suite and stuff. Katy Perry's parents go to that church.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to mention that.
I forgot. So
Katy Perry's parents come in, and I had met them because they're friends with my uncle. So it was weird, but I was just like, oh, hey.
Garrett goes way back with Katy Perry's parents.
Right, yeah, we go way back. We go way back. Well, he's like a traveling speaker guy.
Yeah.
Pretty eccentric dude. Really nice. But yeah, they came in, they were like probably in the room at this point, like just checking everything out. They're friends there, friends of the pastor, and I think they go to that church. So.
Katy Perry was not with them.
Katy Perry was not there. Like, come on, Katy Perry, grab a mic, go up there, sing. I don't know if this would be her jam. But yeah, so overall, project went really well.
I mean, yeah, that's 2 phases over a year.
Through COVID.
In California, across the country.
Through surgeries, through back surgeries.
Haunted houses, COVID, everything.
Yep.
Yeah, a big mix in that job. When we were talking about doing it for the podcast, I totally forgotten about all the variables.
Right.
With this one.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
But it sounds great. Yeah, it looked good. The production suite was a win. Audio control, everything. Yeah, we really set them up for success, and they've been able to utilize that stuff. They've brought on some really talented people onto the team as well, to help manage all that stuff, all the production, and everything, and they're doing a great job.
Yeah, still rolling with it 4 years later. Yeah, we just talked to Steve a couple days ago.
Yesterday, yeah. Talked to Steve yesterday. They're ready to do some refreshes because we're 4 years down the road, so some updates or some programming refreshes and some new project ideas. So we're going to chat through some new ideas.
Sweet. Well, we're going to make it happen for you, Steve, again. Then we'll do another podcast, and we'll just clip it on the back of this one.
And the network will be great.
And the network will be perfect.
We know everything we need to know.
Right. So, I don't know, anything else you want to chat about on this? Or, Luke, you got any last words? You're probably our worst guest yet. So you're our worst guest yet. So this will probably be your last time on the CROWNCAST. So let the internet know anything you want. I'm just joking.
All right. Going outwards, yeah.
No, Luke, you're awesome, man.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate being the worst guest. The first guest too, right?
First guest.
Okay.
So
best guest.
No, you're our best.
Hold every record right now.
You're our best guest. You're our best guest up to this point.
I appreciate it. Yep. Until episode 7. So. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
No, awesome, man. Yeah, it's fun to look back at your first project.
It was a pivotal project because, I mean, I even remember, when we went into talking about my first year as just, that was essentially my first project of the year and my last project of the year. And I got to encompass everything I learned over that year from other projects and just being on the job for a year at that point. So it was fun to see, looking back on that second trip, you're looking back on this job where you don't know anything, and you're like, I was learning how to terminate. You're sending me off to Home Depot and getting my tools. I think I came back with like an electrician satchel. I get a satchel. I was like, I don't know what that is, but all right. So a lot of funny learning experiences to look back on. But it was cool to go back to the same site, a church that we really enjoyed working with, and actually having some knowledge and expertise to give rather than just that first trip was just sponge mode, just learning as much as I could.
I think I remember you saying like that project was your favorite and worst project of the year.
It was my favorite, yeah, but it was probably the most hours per week too. I mean, that was our heaviest hitting. That was some good making men out of us on that project. So
yeah, I remember the working all night. I remember like Keegan like on some chairs on the side, like trying to grab a couple minutes of sleep.
It was a galvanizing project. That was because I mean the whole thing was just, I felt like it was you and me sitting somewhere trying to figure out this network, and then eventually all the other stuff finished. And so you can't have 4 guys just all working on the network. I mean, that's just, so we're doing that, and those guys were being champs and trying to find anything left, and then they finally lost it, and they were passed out on the pews and on the rows of chairs. And
I almost cried. I almost cried so many times. I was like, tears come quick at like 3 a.m. when like you're pulling your hair out and you have a service like a couple hours away. Like, oh, I have to be back here in 3 hours, and you're still there. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
That's the life of an integration.
But that's gonna always be a memorable job. Just all the experiences we had, all the hardships, but I mean, it turned out to be a success and a job we still talk about today. So
a lesser company would have folded and fell apart. We kept strong, Crown strong,
making it happen.
Integrity. All right, sweet. Well, good go. Sweet. Good. Well, hey, CrownDesignGroup.org. That's our website. Ben, tell them about it.
Go there if you want to connect with us on anything audio, video, lighting, network related.
Hi-yo.
We are network ninjas at this point. CrownCare.help if you need help on the weekend even. 24/7, basically. You'll end up talking to Luke probably at some point to help you with your problems. Even on a Sunday morning, we're here to help. So CrownCare.help. Check us out on our social media stuff. Posting more videos and updates lately. Check out the podcast. Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
We don't say it enough, so we're trying to say it. Yeah, that's all I got.
Awesome. Well, we'll be back next week probably with we've got a bunch of cool projects we got to go through. We're kind of holding some back from y'all people. Yeah. We're waiting a little bit for some of the fun stuff.
The biggins.
The biggins stuff. We're holding back a little bit. So waiting for some comments in the comment section is honestly what we're doing.
Ron Kinzior. Comment.
Love you, Ron. And love you, Mom. She's like, on the weekend, Mother's Day, she's like, I have a request. You got to have Keegan on the podcast.
He should have come in for the surgery.
Sons.
What's that?
He should have come in for the surgery.
Oh, that's right. I don't know if he wants to be on the podcast. It might not be his thing. But yeah, if we can help out with anything, we're around. We're available. We're killing it here in Florida, but we're all over, as you just heard. We're in California as well. But yeah, if you need anything, let us know. Love y'all.